Good evening, one and all. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat box. Hopefully the mic's working this evening. Can you hear me? Can you hear me out there? Just type in the chat box. Let me know you can hear me. Can anyone hear me? Yes, you can, Sarah. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And thanks for the donation on Buy Me a Coffee. Greatly appreciated. Hello to Lenny. Welcome to you. United Road, 1987. Lucy Blue. Finzi. Blackwell, 754. Killer Hills. Jude is back. Welcome to you. Leslie, thanks for joining us this evening. Now, we've put it to the public vote. The poll has been up all day regarding what the community or what the viewers wish to see. So basically 80% of people said that they would like to see the evidence in chief for a specific case. Then we move on to the cross-examination. So basically every stream is going to be focused on one specific case instead of spreading things a little bit thin where we're covering sort of child A and child B in terms of Lucy Letby's defense. What we're going to do is we're going to cover Lucy Letby's evidence in chief for a specific case, i.e. child A. Then once that's complete, we're going to move over to the cross-examination by the prosecution, again relating to child A. So everything should be a little bit more focused, and you'll be able to compare what she said to defense and then what she said under cross-examination. So hopefully that should work out rather well, and it should provide hopefully a balanced opinion, half from her defense and half from the prosecution. So we'll just give it a few minutes for people to file in through the turnstiles. James, welcome to you. Dude and Dog, thanks for joining us this evening. Emma EFC, welcome to you. Jean Robert, or is that Jean Robert? One or the other, welcome to you. Totem Craw, welcome to you. Or Totem Crow, that's how bad my eyesight is. What I've also spent today doing is I've gone through the transcript. I've made the text bold to try and make it a bit more visible to you guys, the viewers. And I've also gone through and I've highlighted all of Lucy's answers. So it should make reading it a little bit easier, pretty much. I've spaced it all out. I've colored it. I've made the text a little bit more visible. And I've also highlighted, when it comes to her cross-examination, some points of interest. Now, I'm not going to expand on those massively because I don't want this to become, me giving a massive opinion about what stuff means or what it doesn't mean. But I've highlighted it, so just pay attention to that as we move forward, particularly where her cross-examination is concerned. Mary C27. Thanks for another live video. Much appreciated. Thank you, Mary. Who have we got there? Deeper Shade. Welcome to you. Fred. United Road, 1987. Lucy again. Welcome to you. Elora Mack, thank you for joining us. David Stratton. So yeah, like I say, it's going to be a little bit more focused, a bit more in depth in terms of specific cases, rather than just going from one case to another and focusing on either defense or prosecution. We'll make each stream about a specific case, and we've probably got about 70 pages to get through in total. So it's going to last, the stream will last pretty much the same amount of time as it usually does. So it should work out quite well, hopefully. Oh yeah, and also don't forget to like the stream. That does help the stream's visibility. And as always, if you wish to support the stream and the work that I do, you can find out how to do that down in the video description box below. Right then, we're going to start very shortly, as I say, with Lucy Letby's evidence in chief, again for child A. So let's just pop the banner back. There we go. Lucy Letby defense evidence in chief, child A. Right, who else have we got in here? Anne, welcome to you. Essex True Crime. He sneaked in through the back door. Welcome to you. And I've also got some emojis and member badges being made at the moment for people of the stream, like members of the stream. So they've got their own badges and special emojis that they'll be able to use throughout the live stream. I've got that in the pipeline currently. Right then, let's kick off, shall we? And as I say, this is going to be part defense, and then we move over to combine what she said here, and then in terms of what she's then said in cross-examination when she's then being questioned by the prosecuting barrister, Nicholas Johnson. So let's just make sure we've got the correct slide here. There we go. We shall remove the banner like so. Okay, the background is correct, so that's fine. Okay, and what I'll do, as usual, I'll read a little bit, I'll read a few pages, then I'll stop, jump into the chat and, chat with you guys for a little bit, and then we will continue onwards. Okay, so again, this is Lucy Letby's evidence in chief, where she's being asked questions by her own barrister, Benjamin Myers, KC, and it states the following. Child A, I'm going to ask if we can put up tile 1, please. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. If we go inside that, please, we can see the name, redacted, referred to on the indictment as Baby A, the mother of children A and B. Baby A was born on the 7th of June, 2015. We see elsewhere, in fact, but we see that that's at 2031, so just after 8:30 in the evening, on the 7th of June at 31 weeks and 2 days. He was the second of the twins. Twin 1 was his sister, child B. And we can see here his weight is 1,660 grams, so born by caesarean. Could we go to tile 3, please? We'll go into that. This sets out those details. Can we go behind that, please? Scroll down if you would, please, Mr. Murphy. Baby A was born with antiphospholipid syndrome. There's the maternal history of high blood pressure and a previous stroke, so medication for that. The event that we're looking at in count 1 is on the evening of June 8th, and we will come to the details shortly. But just to remind us, the 8th of June, and at 20:05, there was a 10% dextrose infusion that began with child A via the long line. At 20:26, he collapsed and sadly died at 20:58 that evening. We'll just look at the notes that deal with that, and then we'll move to the questions, Miss Letby. But this is to assist you and everybody. The first note I'm going to go to, with your assistance, Mr. Murphy, is the note by Melanie Taylor at tile 224. Could we go into that, please? Can we enlarge the text section on the right-hand side? If you could enlarge, first of all, the entry on the center of the right-hand side. Thank you. I'm going to pick this up from the entry at 19:05. So this is before the shift when you come on, Miss Letby. The 8th of June, 1905, by Melanie Taylor. It says, UVC in wrong position, reinserted SHO McCarrick, again in wrong position, cannula tissued. Doctors busy on ward 30. Aware no fluids running for a couple of hours. Long line inserted by Registrar Harkness, awaiting X-ray. Remains settled on NCPAP. Enteral feeds of donor EBM started at 1 mil 2 hourly. That's the note at 19:05. I'm going to go next to the note at 21:28 that follows that and goes over the page at 21:28, which is after the event. Nurse Taylor put this in. Observation stable, pink, well perfused, UVC still in situ but in wrong position. To be used if no other access available. Then turn over the page if we read on, please. Long line inserted by Registrar Dr. Harkness. Secured, X-rayed. 10% dextrose run through and connected to long line. 10% dextrose run as per Dr. Harkness until line confirmed. Care handed over to Lucy Letby at 2000. Before leaving, apnea, heart rate dropped, cardiac compressions and resus commenced. See documentation by Lucy Letby and medical notes. So we'll turn to that, and then we will ask you some questions, Miss Letby. Can we go to tile 228, please, Mr. Murphy? These are your notes, Miss Letby, in effect, following on. So we go into that, and it starts at the bottom right, quote, written in retrospect. This is a note at 7:56, I should say, on the 9th of June, so the following morning. Care taken over at 2000, emergency equipment checked, fluids calculated, child A nursed on CPAP. If we go over the page, please. Observation stable at 20:05. 10% glucose commenced via long line with staff nurse Taylor as agreed by Reg Harkness, who was present. UVC remained in situ from day shift. Instructed line not to be used by registrar. Child A noted to be jittery. Was due to have blood gas and blood sugar taken. At 2020, child A's hands and feet noted to be white, centrally pale and poor perfusion. Child A became apneic. Registrar Harkness in the nursery and assistants called for. 10% glucose infusion disconnected immediately. Child A making, excuse me, child A making nil respiratory effort. Neopuffed with Guidal airway. Shortly after, no heart rate detected and full resuscitation commenced as per medical notes. UVC used to administer drugs. Parents and maternal grandmother present. Dr. J Ram in attendance throughout. Child A passed away at 20:58 and was given to parents to cuddle. Right, so we'll stop there at that point there. Just have a little drink. Bear with me a second. I wish I could get the chat up so I could see the chat at the same time as I'm reading this, but I don't think I can do that for some reason. Let me just have a look. Bear with me. Put it into full screen. No, it just doesn't show it. So annoying. Right. Okay. Cat. I have to go now. We'll rewatch tomorrow. If you want legal info, I have some knowledge. Oh, very nice. Interesting. Yes, it will be up. The live stream will be put up around about 10 minutes after we finish. So do feel free to check it out tomorrow. Who have we got here? Gabby, here on time this time. Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. Cosmic Kitten. Apparently Cosmic Kitten is in the chat somewhere. There we go. Welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, as always, and for your continued support. All right, let's go and carry on, shall we? Let's move forward. Okay. I'm going to stop at that point, Miss Letby. If we need any more detail, it's there. That's just to assist us with what we're dealing with count one. So I'm going to ask to take that down now from the screen for the time being, Mr. Murphy. Thank you. I want to pause before we turn to events that night and just remind ourselves, just to get some context, we're looking at the middle of June 2015. Do you recall where you were living round about this time, Miss Letby? She replies, I moved around that time. Mr. Myers, I wonder if you could put up to remind us Exhibit J355, please, Mr. Murphy. We saw this when we last looked at your evidence. We know the events with Child A are on the 8th into the 9th. Quote, 1st of June, Ash House. So what do we know happened on the 1st of June? Lucy replies, that's where I moved to. Right. Hen party in York on June 5th? Lucy replies, yes. Had you settled back into Ash House by the time we're dealing with the events with Child A? Lucy replies, no, I was still in the process of moving and unpacking. Right. Do you recall whether you'd been expecting to come in on that evening shift of June 8th? She replies, no, I received a text message from Yvonne Griffiths, the deputy manager, asking me to work that morning. Mr. Myers, could we have a look, please, at tile 69, Mr. Murphy? We're going to look at a series of messages starting at tile 69. This is from Yvonne Griffiths to you, June 9:21 in the morning. So a little under 12 hours before the event we're looking at. Excuse me. Quote, morning, Lucy. Hope you had a lovely weekend. I'm just wondering if you can split your nights this week and work tonight and tomorrow and come off Thursday and Friday. If we go to the following tile, tile 70, you reply at 9:22. Yes, that's fine. Is it busy? So, would you have known you were due to be called in to assist before these messages? Lucy replies, no. You've asked if it's busy. Can we go to tile 71? Response by Yvonne Griffiths. Oh, thank you, Lucy. We have 3 on CPAP, Singleton sat and twins last night. All 30 weekers, so just wanted 6 staff on. Thanks. Tile 72, please. You to Jennifer Jones Key. Sorry, I was in bed. I hope you slept. I'm working tonight and tomorrow now as busy. Just pausing there. Was it unusual to get requests to come in like this over this period? Lucy replies, no, it happened frequently. Were you often requested to do that? She replies, yes. And did you assist? She replies, as much as I was able to, yes. Why were you ready to do that? She replies, I was very flexible, as I say. I lived locally. I had no commitments outside of work, so I was very happy to help when I could and adapt my shifts as needed. You went in for the evening shift, is that right? She replies, yes. And we can see, and let's remind ourselves the layout for that. That's on tiles 161 and 162. So can we go to tile 161, please? And if you hear my dog snoring again, it's not me, okay? Just putting it out there. Monday, the 8th of June at 19:30. Could you just help us? When it's the evening shift, do you regard it as the 19:30 shift or the 2000 shift? What time do you regard it as starting? She replies, 19:30. 19:30, she replies, yes. I'm going to read out everything that we can see there, or I'm not going to read out everything that we can see there, but we can see who you're on with if we go to tile 162 to see who is designated with which baby. You were designated nurse for child A, weren't you? She replies, yes. Mr. Myers, at this stage of the sequence of events, we don't have the nurseries marked on. That came with the diagrams later. But we know child A and child B were both in nursery 1. Is that right? Lucy replies, that's right. You remember that, do you? She replies, yes. When did you first learn that you'd be caring for child A? She replies, when I arrived on the unit that evening and was told at handover that's who I'd be allocated to. And do you recall what time you would have got to the unit? She replies, I would have been ready to start my shift at 19:30. Do you remember what followed? We've got the notes, but do you have any recollection independent of the notes of what followed? Lucy replies, yes, I do, yes. We'll go back over things in the detail we need to, but could you start by telling us what happened? You get there that evening for the shift to start. We know that Mel Taylor had been looking after child A. That's right. Can you describe events from the time that you get onto the unit? She replies, so I received a group handover that we get at the start of the shift, and I knew that I'd been allocated to look after child A in nursery 1. I went straight into nursery 1 to get handover then from Melanie Taylor. At that point, there was a lot of activity going on in the nursery. Pause there for a moment. Lucy replies, yes. You find out then that you're looking after child A. Is that right? Lucy replies, that's right. You go into the nursery. Do you recall who was in the nursery, or do you not? She replies, yes, so Melanie Taylor was in the nursery and Dr. Harkness was in there doing a procedure. Mr. Myers, when you refer there, or when you refer to there being activity in there, is that what you mean, or is there something else that sticks in your mind? She replies, so I remember there was just a lot going on in the nursery. The lights were up full. I think Dr. Harkness was doing a line procedure at the time, and I remember Melanie Taylor was preparing fluids for child A. Mr. Myers, all right. You went into nursery 1, yes. What happened once you went into nursery 1? She replies, I went into nursery 1 and Melanie Taylor was there, preparing fluids for child A. And she explained that child A had been without fluids for a few hours because he'd needed a long line inserting. And as a priority, we got straight on with connecting those fluids to child A. Right, you say child A. She explained he'd been without fluids for some hours. Lucy replies, she did, yes. Can we look at tile 35, which is the intensive care chart for this period for child A? If we go behind that, and if we just start with this, actually we can see this is for the 8th of June, Miss Letby, for child A. It says child A. We're familiar with the charts now, so I'm going to ask if we could scroll down. We can see up to 1600. There are entries. And then at 1600 that day for child A, it says cannula tissued. Lucy replies, yes. And apart from an entry for NGT at 1800, which is some expressed breast milk via the NGT, what does that tell us? The fact that after 1600, the various readings have stopped. Lucy replies, so after that point at 1600, his peripheral line has tissued, which means he can no longer receive IV fluids. So at that point, from 1600 onwards, or between 1600 and 2000, he didn't have any fluids running. Benjamin Myers, that's what was explained to you? She replies, yes. That had been stopped. She replies, yes. There's something else I would like to ask you about. It's on tile 145. There's a reference to a line that had been positioned. It's tile 145, please. It's in Dr. Harkness' clinical notes. As a general rule, I'm not going to be taking you through clinical notes, but where there's something in them I would like you to assist us with, I will. If we scroll to the bottom of that page, we can see something in Dr. Harkness' notes that said, quote, X-ray review. It's a sticker. It says the time of the X-ray. For the date, it's got the 8th of June, 2015, 1909. and there's a description of what's there. But under comments, it says, long line at right, subclavian SVC, which is superior vena cava, to be pulled back. Can you see that? Lucy replies, yes. That's what it was saying at 1909. Were you aware that there was a repositioning of the long line that was due to take place? Had that been explained to you? She replies, I was told at the time that the line was suitable for use. Mr. Myers, you were told it was suitable for use? She replies, yes. And who told you that? Lucy Letby, Melanie Taylor and Dr. Harkness. Right. Is that the line that the 10% glucose went down? She replies, yes. We can take that down, please, Mr. Murphy. Thank you. Can you explain then what happens next? You say Melanie Taylor had been getting ready. So Lucy Letby replies, yes, when I entered the nursery, Melanie Taylor was dressed sterilely, which is what we need to do to prepare fluids. She had the IV fluid trolley out and had the fluids and had gloves and apron on and was starting to run through some fluids into the line. And when I arrived in the nursery, we decided that this would be our priority. We would both check the fluids, get those running on child A, and then have a formal handover. Benjamin Myers. So we know you get onto the unit roundabout, not precisely, 7:30. Lucy replies, yes. I'll just stop there for a second. Have a little break. Right, Kaz, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Hope you're doing well this evening. Oh, dear. Love the stickers. What the hell's Terry talking about? If you're talking about the stickers on the channel, I can't actually see them because I'm looking at the StreamYard overlay, whatever you call it. But I'll have a look later if there are some. Okay, let's just scroll back, make sure I haven't missed anything. Nope, just Kaz. Okay. And as I say, thank you so much again for joining me this evening for tonight's program. Just as a reminder, we're going through both Lucy Letby's defense, and then we're going to cross over to the cross-examination, where she's then asked questions, again, based on this specific case. This stream is all about child A, both the defense and also the prosecution. So at this point, we're going through Lucy Letby's defense part, then we're going to transition, once this is finished, over to her cross-examination. Now, we're not starting over Potter. It's just that I had to go back through what we did last night with child A, because then I'm going to compare that, or I'm going to then read out the cross-examination from the prosecution, again, related to this case. If I just started doing it with the defense and the prosecution with child B, it just wouldn't make any sense. I have to start it again from, you know, count one, basically. So hopefully that makes sense. Has somebody asked me if I have a dog? Yes, I do have a dog. It is a beige-coloured Labrador. Cream-coloured Labrador? What do you call the ones that are beige? I don't know. It's not a black one. It's not a chocolate one. It's a beige colour. And she's called Luna. Right, let's have a look here. See if I've missed any messages before we continue onwards. Don't think I have. But she's just, my dog's just developed this habit of now sleeping under the table where I do these streams with a blanket and then just literally snoring the entire time, which is fantastic. Right, golden, that's the word. Leslie's on the ball. Golden lab, that's the one. Not a beige one or a cream one, a golden one, yeah. Right then, let's crack on, shall we? All right, so let's pop that down there and full screen it. Okay. Right, Lucy replies, yes. Mr. Myers, if it's possible, how far into getting onto the unit would this conversation and these arrangements start with child A? Lucy Letby. First, we would have had a collective handover at the nurses' station before that. So that would have taken 20 minutes or so, maybe even more. Mr. Myers, then you go to the nursery. Lucy, that's right. And then when you're in the nursery, that's where you begin to make arrangements with Melanie Taylor. She replies, yes, right. Can you tell us who is going to do that with regard to running fluids through the line? She replies, so when you're running fluids through a long line, one member of staff has to be sterile, and that person was Melanie Taylor. Mr. Myers, what does that mean when you say sterile? What have they done, or how are they that means that they are the sterile nurse? She replies, so that nurse is wearing gloves and an apron. They have sterilized the whole of the area that we're working with. We have a fluids trolley. They would have sterilized the area, and then any of the fluids that they're touching, the connections that go to it, that is all kept sterile. Mr. Myers, we've heard it involves 2 nurses for this. What's the other nurse doing? Lucy Letby. So you have to have a role then of a dirty nurse, which is the person who does the things such as connecting it to the pump and doing any of the practical things that that person can't touch because they're sterile. Mr. Myers. So who was going to be doing that when it came to child A and the dextrose? Lucy replies, I was the one that was the dirty nurse that would be programming the pump. Mr. Myers, was it a pre-made bag of dextrose that was used? Lucy Letby, yes it was. And where would that have come from? She replies, so Mel had it out when I arrived, but the bags are kept in nursery 1 in the cupboard. Mr. Myers, it was already out when you got there. Lucy, yes it was. It was all on the trolley ready. Mr. Myers, so the bag's ready. Melanie Taylor was the sterile nurse. You were going to assist. What happened next? Lucy Letby, so we went to child A's cot side. Mel finished connecting the fluids and drawing them through the line. She then went to child A to attach the fluids, and I turned the attention, or I turned my attention to then hanging the bag and programming the pump. Right. So can you give us a little bit more detail? Who was doing what with which bit of equipment? Lucy Letby. At that time, Mel is the one who is handling the bag. She's handling the bag of 10% and the infusion line that runs with that. She was then the one who would physically go to child A, clean the long line and attach that to the line. Mr. Myers, what does that involve, attaching it to the line, just so we can follow? What actually does that mean? She replies, you have to access the line. You clean the line with an alcohol wipe to make the area sterile. She would then have needed to flush the line to check that it was patent. Glad I got that right this time. And after that, then you would connect the fluid line to the end of the long line. Mr. Myers, I can imagine there's a line coming down from the bag and the apparatus there. She replies, yes. When you're talking about it connecting, what is it being connected to so far as child A is concerned? Lucy Letby, it's to be connected to the port that's coming out of the long line that's in child A. So the line that had been positioned by Dr. Harkness? She replies, yes. Do you remember where it was coming out of child A, where the port was? Lucy Letby, his left arm. Right, 2 seconds, guys. Mr. Myers, so that's what's being connected? Lucy replies, yes. And who's doing that connecting? Melanie Taylor, because she's the one who's sterile. Mr. Myers, and then could you repeat, what is it that you were doing while she did that? Lucy Letby, so I was responsible for hanging the 10% bags. That's putting it onto the drip stand next to the cot side and then programming the pump. And that is what happened? Lucy replies, yes. And you mentioned about the line. Did you say being flushed to make sure it's patent? She replies, yes. The usual practice is whenever you are attaching something to any line, you would flush the line with sodium chloride first to check that the line is working. Mr. Myers. I nearly said Mr. Murphy then. Mr. Myers. That's usual, standard practice? Lucy Letby. That's standard practice, really, for anything going through a line, yes. And did that happen? I wasn't watching Mel specifically, but that is usual practice, yes. If we look, please, at tile 174, which is the IV prescription chart. Excuse me. Help us with the time. Go behind that, please, Mr. Murphy. We can see here the 8th of June, 10% dextrose, 500 ml bag. And it's got a rate there, route. What does it say under route? Lucy Letby, long line. It's been prescribed by, or which registrar? She replies, Dr. Harkness. Then it says given by, is it your signature there? She replies, yes, my signature's on the bottom. You say Melanie Taylor also gave it? She replies, yes. So that's the other signature, yes. Let me just ask you this, because others have been asked it. Is there a clear significance to whose name goes where as to above or under when it's a signature? I didn't colour that properly, did I? She replies, no, not at all, no. Oh, yeah, I've done this completely wrong. Right, Mr. Myers, it says date and time started. It looks like, can you tell us what that says? She replies, I say that's 20:05, Mr. Myers. So 8:05 in the evening. Lucy Letby, yes. And is it you that wrote that in? And is that you that wrote that in, or Mel, or someone else, do you know? She replies, it would have been myself or Mel. I can't say. Mr. Myers, one or the other? She replies, yes. Do you remember who? She replies, no. And what does that tell us? Lucy Letby, that is the exact time that the fluids began to run through the pump. Mr. Myers, all right. Is that what took place? Yes. So 10% dextrose begins down the line. Yes, we would only sign for it once we were happy that the fluid was actually infusing through the line. Mr. Myers, all right. So then Lucy Letby. So at this point, it has been connected and the pump is running. All right, so at that point, if you can remember, just tell us what happens next. Lucy Letby, as in, what did I do next? Mr. Myers, yes, leading up to the time when anything was noticed with child A, can you recall anything that took place between this and what happened around 2026? She replies, yes, so once we'd sorted out the fluids, I then had a handover from Mel. And then she went to the computer station and started writing her notes, and I then started doing my equipment checks. Pausing there. We know there's a handover at the beginning of the shift. When you went to nursery 1, you then assisted Melanie Taylor with child A and the dextrose. Is that right? Lucy replies, that was the first thing we did. Yes, the first thing you did. So had you actually had the cot side handover discussion before you did the fluid? She replies, no. Right. So you say that that's what you then had after the fluid was running. She replies, that's right. And then Mel went to deal with her own business, and you said you were doing some checks. Yes. What checks would they be? Lucy Letby. At the start of every shift, we do equipment checks. So that's checking all of the equipment around the cot side. So the emergency equipment, the oxygen, the suction points, any equipment that's around the babies, basically, we are checking. And that's the standard thing at the start of every shift. Mr. Myers. Do you recall where Dave Harkness. Do you recall where Dr. Harkness was during this? She replies, yes, Dr. Harkness was with child B, I believe. In the same nursery? Lucy Letby. Yes, the lights were up and he was doing a procedure, and I think it was on child B. And Caroline Benyon was there as well. Mr. Myers. What was the first indication you had that anything might not have been right? Lucy Letby. I noticed child A to be jittery when I was doing my observations. Mr. Myers. Let's, if we could, put up tile 288 or 228 again, please. It's the second page of tile 228. If we look across to the left-hand side, a couple of lines down, we've got it. It refers to 10% glucose after a time of 20:05 has been given. It refers to Nurse Taylor and Dr. Harkness and that the UVC remained in situ. Then it says this on the fourth line down. Child A noted to be jittery, was due to have blood gas and blood sugar taken. Why did you make a note when you did this retrospectively, and these notes are written at 7:56 the next morning? Why did you make a note noted to be jittery? She replies, jittery is an abnormal finding. That is not something that we want a baby to be displaying. What does jittery mean, in case anybody can't really follow what that excuse me. Mr. Myers, what does jittery mean, in case anybody can't really follow what that describes? She replies, it's like an involuntary jerking movement of the limbs. Do you recall now, casting your mind back, how pronounced that was or how subtle it was? You describe it to us if you can remember. She replies, I remember it was noticeable enough that whilst I was doing my equipment checks, I could see he was visibly jittery. Tell us what happened next then. Lucy Letby. So whilst I was carrying out my equipment checks around the bedside, child A's monitor sounded, and that's when we noted that his colour had changed and he was apneic. Mr. Myers. Monitor, just help us. What's the purpose of the monitor that sounded? She replies, so the babies in nursery 1 are on a Philips monitor, which is full intensive monitoring at all times. And if any value goes out of the recommended reference range, then an alarm will sound. Is that the alarm you heard? She replies, yes. Do you know what that alarm was indicating? She replies, I don't recall what the alarm was indicating at the time, no. Right, let's stop there for a second. Lenny Russell gifted 10 memberships. What a legend. Thank you very much, Lenny. That is greatly appreciated. That is a fantastic Christmas gift. Much appreciated. Like I said in previous streams, we're going to be doing members-only live streams, continuing with different transcripts of the trial, but they're only going to be available to members only. So that's basically going to be a perk moving forward. If you do join the channel as a channel member, which you can find out how to do down in the video description box below, if you become a member, you'll be invited to those private live streams, which will be taking place once per week. Right. Thank you for that, Lenny. That is greatly appreciated. And as I say, I've also got in the pipeline, I've got someone creating currently some badges for the members and also emojis or stickers, whatever you call them, that you can use in the chat box. So yeah, that should be pretty good. Thanks for that, Lenny. Much appreciated. Right, let's scroll down. Right. Reva, welcome to you. Vala Hawks or Vela Hawks, hopefully I've pronounced that correctly. Thank you for joining us this evening. Victoria, welcome to you. David Zimmerman, welcome to you. Positive Vibes, thank you for joining us this evening. Right, let's just have another sippity old drink and then we'll continue further forward. We're making pretty good progress here. We're on page 26 of 42. Then once we get that finished, we're going to have a quick break, a quick intermission, and then we'll be jumping over to the cross-examination. And what will be quite interesting is if you follow, obviously, both of this, you know, the defense side that I'm reading now, that I'm narrating currently, and then you listen to the cross-examination, which we do afterwards. If you find anything that you feel, you know, doesn't make sense when you listen back to it, or things that you pick up on, do let me know in the comment section after the video has gone up. And I'll be sure to make a note of that to discuss in future live streams. Right, okay. Oh, and don't forget to hit the like button as well, you bunch of lazy sods. Apparently Cosmic Kitten is telling me she's ratting on all of you. She's saying there's only 28 likes. Hit that like button. Yes, hit the like button if you are enjoying the stream. Obviously, if you're not, don't. Go and watch another channel. Right, let's continue further forward. Right, 2 seconds, guys. Oh, hang on a minute. We've got Michelle. Welcome to you. Glad you could make it here this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Right then, let's crack on. Let's move further forward. Right, so we've got the note here. Your note. Is that where we finished? I don't recall. Okay, right. So, Mr. Myers. We've got the note here, your note, but you described to us, was there anything about Child A that you noticed when you went to him? She replies, yes, the most obvious thing that I noticed was that his hands and feet were white. Mr. Myers, can you describe to us what happened when the alarm had gone and you'd noticed this? She replies, I went over to Child A. He wasn't breathing, so we began to neopuff him. Mel Taylor came straight over, as did Dave Harkness. And because his limbs had gone white, the first thing we did was disconnect that bag of 10% fluid from the line. Just pause there. When you say disconnect the bag of 10% fluid, that's the bag going down the long line that had been prescribed earlier by Dr. Harkness. She replies, that's right. And the first thing that happened was to disconnect that. She replies, yes. So Dr. Harkness advised that we were to stop the fluids immediately, and then there was over speaking, so that the next part wasn't caught. That was his advice? She replies, it was, yes. Mr. Myers, in a description, in a note, you've talked about, quote, hands and feet noted to be white, and you put centrally pale and poor perfusion. So there can be no doubt. So that there can be no doubt, what do you mean by centrally pale and poor perfusion? How does that look on the baby as a whole? She replies, so his limbs were white and centrally he was pale, but not as white as his limbs. Mr. Myers, by centrally, just tell us which part of the body? Lucy Letby, with centrally, I'm talking about the torso and abdomen. Mr. Myers, right. And poor perfusion, what does that mean? Poor perfusion is a reflection there that obviously poor perfusion is a reflection poor perfusion is a reflection there that obviously he's pale and white is a sign of poor perfusion. Mr. Myers, do you recall how his breathing was at this point? She replies, he was apneic. Meaning? She replies, so he was not breathing at that point. Please talk us through what happens after that. You're all there now, you, Dr. Harkness, and Melanie Taylor. Lucy Letby says, and Caroline Benyon. Do you remember where she had been beforehand? She replies, she was the allocated nurse to child B, so I believe she was helping Dr. Harkness with what was going on at that point. Mr. Myers, so where would she have been in fact? Lucy Letby, in the nursery at child B's cot side. In nursery 1? Yes. Do you recall how long she'd been there for? She replies, she was there the whole time because she was receiving handover for child B. Let's just pause there because so far you have given us the name of Dr. Harkness as being present, yes. Nurse Taylor, yes, because she had done the handover to you, Lucy Letby, and Nurse Taylor was also handing over to Caroline Benyon because she had had Nurse B that day as well, Mr. Myers. So Caroline Benyon was also in that nursery too. She was, yes. And had been during handover? Lucy replies, yes. Describe what happened next then, please. Lucy Letby. So once I noticed that child A was apneic, I began the usual procedure of starting to neopuff him. Dr. Harkness, as I say, came straight over. One of us disconnected the fluids, I'm not sure who that was, and after child A just continued to deteriorate, and we then lost his heart rate, right? And an emergency crash call was then put out. Mr. Myers. And a crash call, again, just help us with this. I won't keep going back to these things, but so we're clear what you mean by these things as we go through your evidence. By an emergency crash call, what does that actually involve happening? Lucy Letby. So an emergency crash call is where we call it the 4 2s. It's the number on the phone, it's 2222. And that goes straight through to the emergency line on the switchboard. And that's how we then request that we need the neonatal team to attend urgently. Mr. Myers, is it a doctor who then attends? She replies, it is, yes. That would go out to the SHO, the registrar, and consultant if needed. Mr. Myers, do you recall who did attend? She replies, yes, I remember Dr. J-Ram came very quickly. Were there any other people who came to assist with what was taking place? Lucy Letby, Nurse A. Do you recall when it was that she came? She came very soon after we'd noticed a change in child A. Do you know where she had been beforehand? Lucy replies, no. Do you recall the events of the resuscitation that took place? We can take the toll down now, please. Do you recall the events of the resuscitation that took place clearly? She replies, no, not in any great detail, no. Do you recall how you were feeling, if you have any recollection of this, as this resuscitation unfolded? She replied, I remember it was just being a huge unexpected shock. It felt we'd literally just walked through the door of the shift and this was happening. Mr. Myers, do you recall whether child A's parents were present at any stage after this had started? She replies, yes, they were called for when child A deteriorated, yes. Which nurse assisted the parents with what was happening? She replies, I'm not sure specifically. Mr. Myers, we know that sadly the resuscitation wasn't successful, and we know that child A died shortly before 9 o'clock that evening. Once child A had died, whose role was it to assist the parents with whatever followed? She replies, it was myself as allocated nurse. Did you assist them? She replies, yes. Do you recall what you had to do or what you did? She replies, I recall doing hand and footprints for child A because the parents also wanted them done of child B as well. Other than that, I can't remember specific details. Mr. Myers, in fact, the bereavement checklist we looked at on Tuesday related to child A. I'm not going to go back to it now, but does that set out the sort of things that you did? She replies, yes. Mr. Myers, was there any other nurse or nurses who helped you as you were dealing with that? She replies, yes, Nurse A helped me with the hand and footprints. That's something that needs to be done by 2 people. Do you recall whether or not there was a memory box that was put together for child A's mum and dad? She replies, yes, there was. Who did that? She replies, myself. I started it, yes. Do you recall whether or not there was a baptism or any religious or spiritual assistance offered to the parents? She replies, yes, when child A was being resuscitated, a baptism was offered to the family, which they accepted, and both child A and child B were baptized together. Mr. Myers. Is the offering of a baptism, at this point, was the offering of a baptism or other spiritual rite or religious rite something that was part of the practice when a situation like this emerged? She replies, yes, that's right. Is there anything that you did so far as the medical equipment was concerned after child A had died? Lucy replies, so after child A had died, I felt that we should retain the bag of fluids and the line that was running those fluids through. Mr. Myers. Which fluids are you referring to when you say the bag of fluids? She replies, the bag that Melanie Taylor and I put up. The bag of 10% dextrose and the infusion line connected to that. So I labelled the bag and the line that was attached to it and then put it in the sluice room. Mr. Myers. And why did you do that? At the time, it was discussed that there'd been this sort of connection we had connected the fluids, then child A deteriorated. And it was felt that at the time that should be checking. And it was felt that at the time that we should be checking. Right, okay. Lucy Letby. At the time, it was discussed that there'd been this sort of connection we had connected the fluids and then child A deteriorated. And it was felt at the time that we should be checking everything related to the line and the fluids. So we were keeping the bag to ensure that it could be tested or whatever might be needed to be done with it if needed. Mr. Myers. And did you have any involvement with the bag after that? She replies, no. Or do you know what happened to it after that? She replies, no. We've seen after this happened that at various points you were in contact with your colleagues talking about what had taken place on the messaging. She replies, yes. Why did you contact people to talk about what had taken place? She replies, they were my support network, my support system. We were a close team. And things like that is something you can only really discuss with somebody who is in the profession. Mr. Myers. How did you feel with what had happened with child A? How did it affect you? She replies, just stunned. It was complete shock for all of us. And yeah, it was just complete. It felt like we'd walked through the door into this awful situation. And that was obviously the first time I'd met child A, the first time I'd met the parents. It was a huge shock. Mr. Myers. Just with regard to the messaging, let's have a look at a little bit of it. I won't keep going to all of it. Tile 249, please. 248, please, Mr. Murphy. It's a message from Nurse A to you, and the following day at 18:38. She said, you did amazing. So proud of you. In fact, just pausing there, the following day, were you back on shift on the following night shift? She replies, yes. Who were you looking after on that shift? Do you recall? She replies, no. Mr. Myers. But that's the shift when we turn to events with child B, isn't it? She replies, it is, yes. Just to keep track of everything, she said, you did amazing, so proud of you. Then tile 249, please, seconds later. Hope that doesn't sound patronizing. It's genuine. You did fab. And kisses, then please 250. Now from you to Nurse A at 18:39. I think it's Kate W instead of Caroline. I think it'd be nice for you to have child B. And then 251 is where you actually respond to what Nurse A has said to you. No, it's not patronizing at all. Appreciate you saying that, and thanks for letting me do it, but supporting me so well. Letting me do it, and thanks for letting me do it, but supporting me so well. Was there anything odd in your opinion in exchanging messages like that? She replies, no, this would happen frequently. When you say frequently, with reference to what? She replies, so I would frequently message various staff members about different babies on the unit or about personal and social things. How important was the support that you got from colleagues when dealing with difficult situations on the unit? She replies, it was hugely. That was my main source of support. Living alone and with there being no formal process in the workplace to support anyone, my colleagues were my main support, yes. And was it also just them giving support to you? Or did you ever give support to people? She replies, both. In your experience, was it unusual for colleagues to be messaging one another after something had happened that may carry some impact? She replies, no, not at all. I'd say it's something we would all do. We were all regularly in touch outside of work. Mr. Myers. Now, after the events of that night, one of the things we've seen is there's a Facebook search for the mother of child A and B, child A's mother. I'll give you the reference for that. Toll 231, please, Mr. Murphy. The following morning, there'd been a Facebook search for the mother of child A and B. Can you explain to us why you'd done that search? Lucy replies, to walk into the unit that evening and for the first time to have met those parents be in that awful situation. I think it was just curiosity that I wanted to see the people behind the awful event that had happened. I think it was just curiosity. They were on my mind. Mr. Myers. We know there are later searches on the 10th of June in the evening. They are amongst other searches that are ongoing, but on the 10th of June on the evening, you search for the mother of child A and B. And then on the 25th of June, you search for her. I guess he means again. Again, why would you look for the mother of child A and B? I don't ask critically, but if you could just explain to the jury so they can understand it, as much as you can explain why you would look for her. She replies, it's a common pattern of behaviour for me. If I think of somebody, I would look them up. Child A and B were on my mind quite a bit at that time. Mr. Myers. And when you did searches, did you search for people in isolation? Or would you be performing a number of searches at the same time? She replies, no, it would usually be done in quick succession, multiple people over a short period of time. Mr. Myers, are the only people that you looked up parents of babies on this indictment? She replies, no. Was there any kind of debrief held after child A had died, an official debrief on the unit? She replies, there was a debrief, I believe, a few days later. Right. Do you recall who led that? She replies, Dr. J. ran. Do you recall what the purpose of that debrief was? She replies, so it was just to look at the sort of the resus itself and to see if there was anything obvious that we needed to learn from at that point. Mr. Myers, the debrief that takes place, is there any kind of discussion amongst staff more informally in terms of support or any type of emotional support for what people have been through? She replies, no, it's more clinically based. Mr. Myers, yes. Did it affect you going through something like that? Something like this? She replies, yes, it did, yes. It's being alleged, of course, that you did this. Did you? She replies, no. What's it like to have that allegation made? She replies, it's awful. Obviously, that day, I wasn't even supposed to be working that night, and it's just such a shock to walk into that situation. How lasting is the impact on the people who are involved in a situation like that? She replies, you never forget something like that. Right, so that's the end of the defense part. Right, so let's pop this on here. 2 seconds. Let's get off of this. Put this on here for the cross-examination, and by the wonders of technology, we magically swap out good old Benjamin Myers on the left here for hopefully Nicholas Johnson. There we go. Look at that. Right, so as I say, next it's going to be the same case, child A, but it's going to be Lucy Letby then being questioned by the prosecution. So we've got a fairly decent basis for the defense case concerning child A. We've had her version of events when told to her own barrister. What's going to follow next is the prosecution's barrister then cross-examining her, again based on child A, or solely, I should say, on child A. Let's catch up with some of the old comments. Pink Pugs, the legend. £4.99 super sticker. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Another fellow dog lover by looks of it. Hope you're doing well. And as always, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Right, let's catch up with some of the comments if I can. Live, there we go. Michelle, welcome to you. Who else have we got here? Lucy Blue, JB. Thank you for joining us. And like I say, in about 2 or 3 minutes' time, we will jump in to the cross-examination. And this is going to be, by the looks of it, 31 pages. So a little bit less than what we've just covered, basically. Positive vibes. Thanks for this every night, John. You're welcome. Like I say, I hope to do this, pretty much every night, and really try and focus in on one specific case. So tonight, as I say, it'll be child A. I can't do child B because I need to edit the, I need to space all the transcript out and color coordinate her answers, which I'll be doing tomorrow daytime, obviously. But yeah, just focused on, one particular night we'll be doing one specific case, looking at both sides of the argument, what she said to her defense barrister, and also what she said when she was questioned by the prosecution, trying to get, I guess, more of a balanced opinion, not just dealing with the defense, not just dealing with the prosecution. Right, okay. And yes, thank you, positive vibes. Much appreciated. Right, okay. Oh, bear with me. Oh, I just got another notification from Buy Me a Coffee. Kitty, thank you so much for the $25 donation. That is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for that. I haven't found out, or I haven't figured out how to get my coffee donation things to actually show on the screen, but I'll try and work on that. But thank you so much for that, Kitty. That is massively appreciated. Thank you so much. Okay, are you ready for it, ladies and gentlemen? We now cross over to the dark side. Right, so this is the prosecution's cross-examination. Again, hang on a minute, let me just quickly remove. First of all, let's remove this and then quickly put this up here before I start, just so it's very clear what I'm about to narrate. So we'll keep that there for a few seconds. Okay. Yeah, you really should become a member, Cosmic Kitten. Like I say, I'll be doing these private live streams starting next week. So we're going to do at least one a week of the private live streams, members only live streams. And they'll probably cover, I would say, mainly the Lucy Letby trial transcripts. But if there's other cases that we want to look into, obviously I'll be more than happy to do that also. Right, so let's remove this banner here and then we'll get cracking, shall we? So this is a cross-examination, again, concerning child A. I've got to remember to say now, Nicholas Johnson and not Mr. Myers. So let's see how that goes. So this is Nicholas Johnson. All right, let's start with the case of child A, please. You were first interviewed on the 4th of July, 2018. Independently of the medical notes, did you have any memory of child A? Lucy Letby, yes. Just for anyone's note, it is, of course, count 1. He was born on the 7th and died a day later on the 8th. And he was, as we all know, the twin of child B. Before child A, had you ever known a child to die unexpectedly within about 24 hours of birth? She replies, I can't comment on that. I'm not sure. Well, how many infant deaths had you witnessed in your employment before child A? She replies, not many, maybe 2 or 3 at the Countess and then several more at my placements at Liverpool Women's. 2 more at Liverpool Women's. You say several more. I'm offering an alternative of 2 more. She replies, I can't say. I don't keep track of numbers. Nicholas Johnson, I'm just going off what you said to the police, you see. She replies, well, my memory then would have been clearer than it is now. Mr. Johnson, okay, well, we can go to the interview if you'd like to check it. Page 16 of your child A interview. I'm suggesting that you told the police that you'd seen 2 at Liverpool. Letby replies, okay, does that sound right? She replies, yes. When child A and B were born, were the staff, including the nursing staff, talking about their mother's antiphospholipid syndrome? Lucy replies, not at the time, when I was looking after child A. At any time, you tell us. She replies, well, the first time I met child A and was on shift was the day of the event. Afterwards, the condition was talked about, yes. Was it being offered up as an explanation for what had happened as far as you were aware? She replies, it was possibly a contributing factor. That was what was being discussed at the time. Mr. Johnson, but we know now that it wasn't, don't we? She replies, yes. So let's just get this right. So was it being offered up as an explanation for what had happened as far as you were aware? So this is the antiphospholipid syndrome. Lucy Letby, it was possibly a contributing factor. That was what was being discussed at the time. Nicholas Johnson, but we now know that it wasn't, don't we? She replies, yes. Is it your case that the staffing levels in the Countess of Chester Hospital contributed to child A's death? She replies, in part, yes. Right, how? Through the amount of time that he was without fluids for and the issues around the lines insertion. Mr. Johnson, right, so he was without fluids from sometime about 4 p.m. or thereabouts, 3 or 4 p.m.? Lucy replies, yes. So your case is what, that he died from dehydration? She replies, no, I'm saying they're contributing factors. But according to you at least, how did that lack of fluids for about 4 hours contribute to his death? What's your case? She replies that it would have put him at an increased risk of collapse and he would have had less reserves to then fight off any infection or any procedure that we were doing. Mr. Johnson, so it's your case that 4 hours without fluids killed child A? She replies, no, that's not what I'm saying, no. What? She replies, I can't tell you how child A died, I don't know. Okay, but they're contributing factors that were missed. Mr. Johnson, is it your case that the competence of the medical staff contributed to child A's death? She replies, again, I can't say definitively how child A died, but yes, I think the issues around his lines made him more vulnerable, yes. Nicholas Johnson, and what issue around his lines made him more vulnerable? That he was left with a line in situ, a UVC, that was not for use and was due to be removed, and it wasn't. And then having a long line sighted and time passing by without that line being connected to anything and being confirmed on X-ray. It's not usual practice. Nicholas Johnson, all right. Did you fill in a datix? She replies, no. Why not? I just haven't. You fill in lots of datix forms, don't you? She replies, yes. 3 at the end of June 2016. Right. We'll come to them, but 2 of which contained lies, according to Dr. Breary, yes? Lucy Letby, according to Dr. Breary, yes, if you seriously thought that child A's death was contributed to by him not having fluids for any significant period of time, why didn't you fill in a datix form? She replies, it was discussed amongst staff. We all talked about that as contributing factors at the time. That was readily discussed amongst staff, including the consultant. No. The question is, why did you? I didn't feel I needed to do a datix. It had been raised verbally by senior staff to senior staff. And those senior staff were who? Lucy replies, Ravi Jairam and other members of the nursing team. No, Ravi Jairam and... I didn't say 2 senior staff. I escalated the concerns to senior staff. Mr. Johnson, I beg your pardon. One being Ravi Jairam, the other senior nursing staff. Nicholas Johnson, I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you said. I apologise. Lucy Letby, and part of that discussion is why we then kept the fluids and the line from child A. Nicholas Johnson, I'll come to that in a moment if I may. Was child A's death anything to do with Mel Taylor? Lucy Letby, I don't know why child A died. But I'm asking you whether it's your case that it had anything to do with Mel Taylor. She replies, if we agree that the cause of death was an air embolus, then I believe she attached the fluids to those lines. Yes. So that's Mel Taylor's fault. She replies, yes, if that's what we agree, that child A has died from that, then yes. Because you weren't standing over him at the time he collapsed. She replies, no, I did not have any access to his lines, so therefore, if an embolism came, it must have come from the person connecting the fluids, which is not me. Would you admit it if you did? She replies, did what? Put air into him. Lucy Letby, I haven't put air in, so I'm not going to. The question is, would you admit it if you did? She replies, it's not something I would ever do. Mr. Johnson, I'm going to ask you about some of the descriptions that have been given by your colleagues in evidence about child A to see whether you agree or disagree with them. All right? Lucy replies, okay. Starting with Dr. Beach's evidence, on the 7th of June, Dr. Beach told the jury that child A was doing well, that he was crying and vigorous on stimulation shortly after his birth at about 9 p.m., 2100 hours on June 7th. Do you disagree with that? She replies, no, I wasn't present for that. So, Nicholas Johnson, the following day, the day he died, which was Monday the 8th of June at 9:45, Dr. Ogden at tile 84 described child A as handling well. Do you disagree with that? She replies, again, I wasn't there, so I can't comment. That's her opinion. Well, are you aware of anything to contradict? No. Dr. Ogden's opinion? No. As you've already told us, in the afternoon there were problems identified with the UVC, and then the cannula to which he was attached became blocked. Lucy replies, yes. Do you remember that at 1900 hours on the 8th of June, Dr. Harkness put a central line into child A? Lucy replies, I know that happened, yes. Do you accept that you were standing over child A at the time he collapsed? She replies, I accept that I was within his cot space checking equipment, yes. How close were you to him at the time he collapsed? She replies, I was in the close vicinity. I was checking the equipment around his incubator. Mr. Johnson, yes. Give us an idea in terms of this court. Could you reach out and touch him? She replies, I could touch the incubator, I'd have to open the doors to actually get into the baby, but yes, I could touch the outside of the incubator. Could you touch the lines? She replies, no. Why not? She replies, the incubator was closed. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of this now, but this changes when we get to the end of child B, which will be in tomorrow's episode. So I'm not going to go into that now, but I've just made a note for that for myself, basically, to remember that when we get to that part in child B tomorrow, when she's asked about having access to both the lines of child A and B. So her answer there, we'll keep that in mind. Could you touch the lines? No. Why not? The incubator was closed. Do you accept that at the time child A collapsed, Mel Taylor was on the computer doing her nursing notes? She replies, yes. It's your case, and correct me if I have misunderstood, that Mel Taylor was the sterile nurse in terms of attaching child A's line. She replies, yes. Do you accept that it was at 20:05 hours that the bag was hung? Yes. And do you accept that you co-signed for that? She replies, yes. And do you accept that the order of the signatures doesn't illuminate the question of who it was that actually hung? That's correct. There's no way of knowing from signatures. So there's no way of knowing from the signatures on the form who actually hung the bag, pretty much. Mr. Johnson, it was 15 minutes later, wasn't it, that child A collapsed at 20:20? Letby replies, yes. And what I'm going to do is to remind you of various people's descriptions of what they saw, okay? What I'm going to do is to ask you whether you agree or disagree with their descriptions, okay? Do you understand? Yes. So if you want me to repeat any of this, you say so, all right? Letby replies, okay. I'm quoting from the transcript, and I'm going to start with Dr. Harkness for your lordship's note. This is day 12, pages 90 to 92. What Dr. Harkness said was this. There was a very unusual patchiness of the skin, which I had never seen before, and I have only ever seen in cases since within the Countess of Chester Hospital, and nothing other than that. I'm not asking you to comment on what he has or hasn't, but what he has or hasn't, what he has. Hang on, is this right? Hang on a minute. I'm not asking you to comment on what he has or hasn't, what he says about having seen things. Right, okay. I'm not asking you to comment on what he has or hasn't, what he says about having seen things, but do you agree with his description that there was a very unusual patchiness of his skin? Lucy Letby, no. There were patches of a kind of blue-purple colour. There were patches of bright red colour. There were patches, and they didn't fit with something that you would find on a baby that's not pumping any blood around their body. Do you agree with that? She replies, no. This had bright red patches, which does not fit because red patches means you've got blood going round your body. Do you agree with that? Lucy Letby, no. It had purple patches. It had white patches. Lucy Letby, I agree with that. Yes, he had mottling. No red marks? No. No red blotchiness? Sitting here now, I can't recall any blotchiness. No. Are you saying Dr. Harkness has made that up? She replies, I didn't see it. If he saw something that I didn't, that's something he has to justify. That's not quite the question, you see. I'm asking whether you dispute something. If you can't comment, then that's one thing, but you say no. I said, is that right? No. Lucy replies, it's not something I saw. Right, well, I'm not interested in at the moment. I will come to what you saw. The question is, are you disputing what Dr. Harkness says he saw? She replies, yes. Why? Because I was present and I did not see those. Right, so because you didn't see it, you are disputing it. She replies, yes. Mr. Johnson, Dr. J-Ram, this was his description, and this was on day 14, page 126. He was pale. He was pale. What I really didn't give any clinical significance to at the time was sort of unusual patches of discoloration. Do you agree with that? She replies, I don't agree with the discoloration. I agree he was pale. It's interesting because it's the first time I've seen that. Child A was very pale to blue. Do you agree with the pale to blue? She replies, he was pale. I don't recall him being completely blue. No. But there were unusual. The best way to describe them is pink patches that appeared mainly on the torso, which seemed to sort of appear and disappear and flit around. Do you agree with that? She replies, no, I don't. Now, this is an interesting part here. Nurse A, her personal friend. Nurse A, your friend. She was your friend, wasn't she? Yes. A good friend? Yes. Do you trust Nurse A? As a colleague or as a friend? Both. Lucy replies, yes. What she said, how many years' experience did Nurse A have? Lucy replies, I don't know exact figures, but she was very experienced. Mr. Johnson, approximately 20 years? Lucy Letby, possibly, yes. Is she the sort of person you would defer to, whose advice you would take? Lucy Letby, yes. If you had a problem, is she the sort of person that could be relied on to give you a good solution? Lucy replied, yes. What she said is this. I'd never seen a baby look that way before. I mean, he looked very ill. Did he look very ill? Lucy replies, yes. He had a discoloration pattern that I've never seen before. Was this a discoloration pattern that you had ever seen before? Lucy replies, I didn't see a discoloration pattern. So you don't agree with that? She replies, no. He was very white with sort of purpley blotches. Do you agree with that? Lucy replies, I agree that he was white with purple markings that looked like mottling, yes. He did look cyanotic as well, but it was this purpley blotchiness with white that I had not seen before. Do you agree with that? She replies, no. She's not describing there, is she? The common or garden blotchiness that babies have on neonatal units? Lucy replies, no. Because she's never seen it before, with all that experience. Do you agree with that? She replies, that's what she said, yes. My recollection, it was all over him, everywhere, more to the torso, maybe more torso. And I can't remember clearly, but unusual. It had come on very suddenly. Do you agree with that? Lucy Letby replies, I agree that the colour change came on very suddenly, yes. Let's go to what you said, bearing in mind you don't accept the red marks. Can we go to your interview, please? And it's in the first interview bundle. It's the very first of the interviews. So it's baby A, number 1. If you just turn back a page from where you are, if you wouldn't mind, we'll just do the formalities. We can see here the date of this interview was the 4th of July. Have you got that? Lucy replies, yes. Mr. Johnson, 2018, I should have added. The time that the interview commenced was 10:23. It concluded at 12:04. Let's go to page 8 and get your description, please. You are being asked to describe what you saw. Is that right? Lucy replies, yes. I'm asked to interpret what pale is. Yes. Yes. So the second question on the page, you're asked, tell me how you interpret pale, first of all, in a neonatal baby. She replies, so it's a loss of colour. Babies are usually quite pink, and he'd become more pale, as in almost white. So bearing in mind here, we're talking about Lucy Letby's police interviews at this stage. And you make it clear that that means there's something wrong. It could be infection, could be hypoglycemia when they've had a sudden collapse. Then this question by the officer, and mottled, the same thing. How do you interpret the mottled appearance? She replies, mottled is a bit more of almost like a rash appearance, like blotchy red marks on the skin. Is that what you're referring to as mottled? Nicholas Johnson asks. She replies, yes. Mr. Johnson, then further down the page you say, so when the baby's quite pale and white, they can have sort of red areas on them. Red, is that right? She replies, yes, this is all in relation to mottling, yes. And you reply over the page, yeah, like reddy purple. Lucy Letby, yes. You say he was centrally pale, yes. Then if we go to page 11, please, halfway down the page, you're being asked about the time child A collapsed. It's pretty much exactly halfway down, you say. I believe I was checking the equipment, yes, at his cot side and his charts. Is that right? Lucy replies, yes. Then the police officer asked you this. When you talk about this mottled rash, can you give us any further description of how it showed? Shape? So what you're being asked here is, what did you see, aren't you? She replies, yes. You're not being asked about your description of mottling. You're being asked a specific question, what did you see? Do you agree? Lucy replies, in relation to the mottling, yes. No, in relation to what you saw on child A. Whatever word you want to, and then Lucy Letby interjects, when you talk about this mottled rash, yes, that's what I'm referring to. Nicholas Johnson. What the police, I'm paraphrasing it, but what the police are saying to you here is, you've said he has a mottled rash. Yes. What did you see? Yes. What are you saying? What are you saying is a mottled rash? Yes. Lucy replies, yes. What are you saying is a mottled rash? Yes. Lucy replies, yes. Do you agree? Fair? Lucy replies, yes. So that's the question. Can you give us any further description of it, how it showed shape? Lucy replied, I think from memory, it was more on the side that had his line in. Nicholas Johnson, is that the right? Or is that right, I should say? Lucy replies, yes, I remember the paleness and discoloration more to the left-hand side. Yes. And again, police interview here. Which side was that? Do you remember? And you said, as you just have, I think it was his left. And you described it as a red-purple colour. Can you sort of help us with any comparisons with anything colour-wise, the way it showed? Was it bright red? Was it dark red? Lucy replied, I think he was more pale than mottling, than the little areas of the mottling. Lucy then says, yes. Were you not describing blotchy red marks on his skin? Lucy replies, I was referring to mottling. That's how I would describe mottling, and also felt that he was more pale than mottled. Nicholas Johnson, so is it your evidence, just so that we understand where the lines between the prosecution and you are, is it your evidence that there was nothing unusual to be seen on child A? She replies, no, it's unusual to have a baby that is pale and he was particularly white on one side. That is unusual. Nicholas Johnson, so far as the discoloration was concerned, is it your case that there was nothing unusual about the discoloration? She replies, I don't recall there being an abnormal discoloration. No. So that's your case? She replies, yes. So far as the testing of the bag was concerned, which you mentioned earlier, I think Nurse A accepted that you had asked for the bag to be tested, as you said in interview. Yes. Was it tested? She replies, I don't know. I put it aside and labelled it. The responsibility then went to the shift leader of the next shift. Did you ever follow it up? She replies, I can't say. I can't recall specifically. No, I know I labelled the bag and put the request in the diary and handed it over to the shift leader. Right, we'll stop there for 2 seconds because we are zooming through this at a high rate of knots. Whew, right, let's get back to the old chatteroony. Oh, there we go. Cosmic Kitten. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spend a great deal of time, injecting my own thoughts into this. But basically, what the prosecution is saying here is you've got a number of professionals, one who's actually a close friend of Lucy Letby, saying that they've seen this rash on a child, which they have never seen before. And yet she's saying, well, it was mottling. There was nothing that unusual about it. The way that it's been described by other people, other professionals, nurses, doctors, whatever, is in conflict with how Lucy Letby describes it. That's pretty much the basics of that. Right. Just have a break for a couple of seconds, and then we will continue onwards. And thank you again, Cosmic Kitten, for becoming a member. Right. Okay. Lucy Blue. John, when you saw her in court, did you see her show any kind of emotion whatsoever? Did she break down at all? No. There's only one time, I'm not sure if I've told this story or not, but I tried to make it quite evident on the cross-examination videos. There was only one time, really, that I saw her really, would I say lose her temper? I think that's maybe a bit harsh. There was only one time that I saw her get visibly angry. And it was quite an interesting situation, actually. So they're talking about these handover sheets, the ones that are found under the bed and all that sort of stuff. And Lucy was basically saying, look, I haven't looked at these sheets. They've just been under my bed, right? I haven't looked at them. I don't need them. I don't read them to be able to search for these parents on Facebook. I remember the names in my head, right? That's basically her case. So then Nicholas Johnson, one of the mothers has like a really hard to spell surname. It's like a foreign surname. And he says, yeah, well, the mother of this child, got a very interesting surname, hasn't she? And she says, yes. He said, I'd like you to spell it, please. And she said, well, I don't think I can. He said, oh, come on. You've got a very good memory. Why don't you spell it? And she starts to spell it out. I'm not going to say what it is. I can't even remember myself, to be honest. But she starts to spell it out. And then he goes, before that happens, he says, she's got a very interesting, very strange surname, hasn't she? And she says, yes. And then he says, hasn't she? She goes, yes. It's like a really sort of, I don't know whether she knew that he was going to ask her to spell the name. And she, all this time she's been saying, look, I don't look at these sheets. I simply have the names of these parents in my head and I just search for them because my memory's that good. And she knew that he was going to ask her to spell it, maybe. I don't know. I've got no idea. But yeah, he said, very strange, very odd surname, isn't it? Yes. Isn't it? Yes. And that was literally the only time I saw her, I wouldn't say break character, but it was the only time I saw her ever get pissed off or show any sort of emotion, really. The way she came across was just, God, I mean, how do you actually explain it? She didn't seem medicated to me. She didn't seem like she was in a world of her own or anything like that. She was sort of overly alert, if anything, blinking a great deal. Like she would really blink rapidly. A lot of rapid blinking was something that was very, very prominent. Like hyper focused on what was being asked of her. Like really sort of focusing on what was being asked. And then her voice would be quite well spoken. Guess that's probably the best way of putting it. Very clear, quite convincing. Her tone of voice is very convincing, but it's only when you listen to what she says where you think that doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense at all. Like her actual tone, the way she conveys things vocally is very, very convincing. but the content of what she says isn't. If that makes any sense. I think that's probably why when I first went there, I remember driving home that evening thinking, no, she's definitely innocent. She 100%. Well, I didn't think 100%, but I thought there was a good chance from what I'd heard, based on the way she was conveying herself or the way she was, expressing herself vocally. It just came across very believable. The tone was very believable. And it wasn't until I went back again and again, and I stopped focusing on the voice and just listened to what she was actually saying, that I thought, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you do that? Or why would you say that? Or, that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, back to that name thing about the, getting the mother to explain, getting her to spell the mother's name. So she gets the name wrong. She's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he says, no. And then he says, there's 7 handover sheets under your bed with the mother's name on it, isn't there? And so she, after saying for the whole entire trial, I never look at these notes. I've stored the names in my head. I can recall the names. I haven't been taking these sheets home to use them as like memory refreshing documents or anything like that. I simply have the name stored in my head. She couldn't recall the mother's name. She couldn't spell it. And then it was then revealed that 7 of the handover sheets found in one of the bags had the mother's name on it. So it was almost like in your mind, you pictured her getting the sheet out of the bag, reading the name off the sheet in order to do the search, if that makes sense. But yeah, that was the only time, like I say, the only real time. I mean, there was the other time, wasn't there, when she got completely caught out with the, because I knew what I was looking at, when she completely met, like, I don't know whether it was like a slip of the tongue, excuse me, or what it was. But at that point, she was like sat up really tall and just looking straight forward. Like, I don't know, it's weird because it was such a mistake. And Nicholas Johnson just said, what do you mean by that? What do you mean you knew what you were looking for, or I knew what I was looking for? What did you mean by that? And she was just silent, staring forward, just nothing. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Bearing in mind, these are just my own interpretation. Other people, I'm sure other people would see her and they'd maybe have a different opinion. Maybe some people would think she comes across as very convincing. She's very calm, this, that, and the other. I don't know. But that's literally just my opinion going there and trying to take in all of the information that I could verbally and visually, I suppose. But yeah, visually, it was this rapid blinking. That was something that really stood out to me, I think. Rapid blinking. Right. Okay. My dog is still snoring. So, right. So let's continue onward, shall we? Just have a little drink for 2 seconds. And like I say, tomorrow, we will probably, I would imagine, start on Child B. We'll do the defense again for Child B. This dog snoring is ridiculous. Followed by her cross-examination. Let's have a look here, see if there's anything else so I need to catch up on before we continue. She showed some emotion when Dr. A came in court. Yeah, she tried to escape out of the dock, didn't she? She tried to escape out of the dock. I shouldn't laugh, really. But yeah, that was one time where she was. I mean, she was more visibly upset when she was discussing her own situation. The cats, the house, her being removed from the unit. That stuff seemed to invoke some kind of emotional response, but there wasn't really anything when she was talking about the children. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get too in depth in this because people start saying, "Oh, you got an agenda. Oh, don't have an opinion." So yeah, let's just let's stop it there before I wind too many people up. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting. I just remember looking at her or just watching her and thinking, I can't believe that I can honestly be looking at someone that's committed these crimes, because obviously she doesn't look that way. And I don't know. It's just such a, yeah, I don't know. Let's carry on. Right, let's get back to business. Let's deal with the facts. Don't worry about my opinion. Let's just carry on. Just ignore my ramblings. Right, let's carry on. Okay, Nicholas Johnson. Right, further evidence that was given by those who tried to save child A. Dr. Harkness. Do you remember him telling the jury how he bagged child A? She replies, I can't recall that now, but yes, if that's what he said. And he said that child A's chest was rising and falling, that his heart rate and his saturations were declining. Do you remember that? She replies, yes, well, not specifically. I'm relying that that's what he said. I can't recall everybody's evidence in detail. He replies, sure. I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm misrepresenting what people have said. Do you accept that given the pattern of air going in and out, the sats and the heart rate falling, this wasn't a normal respiratory problem that child A had? Lucy replies, I don't think I can comment on what condition child A had at that point. Mr. Goss then says, I don't think that's quite the question. Mr. Johnson says, no. Lucy says, sorry, I don't understand them. Mr. Goss, can you ask the question again? That's not an answer to the question. Mr. Johnson, I'm not asking you for a diagnosis. What I'm asking you to give us is your point of view about this issue of the air going in and out, the heart rate falling, and the saturations falling. So the evidence is that air is going in, carbon dioxide is going out with more air, but more carbon dioxide. And yet child A's heart rate and saturation rate were falling. And that is not a normal respiratory problem, is it? If air, then she jumps in. No, generally, if you've got an airway and you've got chest movement, you would expect to see a rise in the observations. Yes, exactly. Dr. J-Ram dealt with a number of other issues, which I'm asking for your comment on because you were there. He said that the heart rate on the Philips monitor was normal. Do you agree? She replies, I can't recall specific values now. But if there had been something abnormal, would you have taken any notice of it? She replies, his monitor did alarm. That was how we were alerted to him having a desaturation. So he must have had a change in observations. Yes, Mr. Johnson again. The trace. Do you remember the P waves and the something else waves that he gave us a little tutorial about? Do you remember that bit of evidence? Lucy replies, yes. He said the trace of the heart was normal. She replies, I can't comment on that. That's not something nursing staff could interpret. Have you ever seen an arrhythmia in a neonate? She replies, no, I don't think so, no. Dr. J-Ram said that child A's heart was pumping normally. Do you disagree with that? She replies, that's his opinion. I don't feel I can assess that. You don't contradict it. She replies, no. Dr. Marnaridis found an air bubble in child A's brain and in his lung. Did you inject child A with air? She replies, no. Dr. Arthurs found air bubbles in his great vessels. Do you remember that? Yes. Just like child D and child O. Yes. That's because you injected him with air, isn't it? She replies, no. After this, did you want to get straight back into nursery 1? She replied, yes. Why? Lucy Letby. From my experience at Liverpool Women's, you are actively encouraged if you've lost a baby in a certain cot space, that you go straight back into that nursery and care for other babies so that you sort of move on from that first experience and it doesn't almost prevent you from going back into the intensive care environment. Mr. Johnson, nearly said Mr. Myers. Did you tell the truth to the police? Lucy Letby. In what respect? Yes, I have told the truth. Can we just go to your second interview, please? You're asked about the dangers of air going into the circulation. Yes. And you're asked about what the dangers are. And you said, I don't know what it would cause. Is that true? She replies, yes, I know the pathological reasons that it would. I know ultimately it would end in death. Yes, anything between that, I don't know. Mr. Johnson, and the question was what? What are the dangers? You have just told us death. Why didn't you give that answer? Lucy replies, I can't answer that. Were you playing daft? No, it's something that every nurse would know. Oh, yes, absolutely. Lucy replies, yes. So why didn't you say so? Lucy replies, I've also said that I don't know exactly how it would affect a baby, and that is true. I know the ultimate in anything that you do, the ultimate serious outcome could be death. What that would look at, what that would appear as in symptoms of the baby, I don't know. Right. I'm going to stick around with you for about another 5 or 10 minutes. But that's the end of the defense combined with the cross-examination. Right, okay. How do I pronounce that? Linos Jarvis, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you very much. All right, let's catch up with some of the chat here. David Zimmerman with the £3 super sticker. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated, David. And most importantly, thank you for watching this evening. And like I say, tomorrow we will start with child B. I mean, what I might do, the thing is, I think child C is actually quite a long one. So what I might do is we might stick with child B tomorrow, and then I'll try and get child C's all sorted out for the following evening. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. We'll definitely be doing a live stream tomorrow anyway, but we'll just see how long I can make it. Because ideally, I'd like these to be more like 2 hours rather than an hour and 36. All right, let's catch up with some of the old lovely people here. Just bear with me. Okay. And again, a massive thank you has to be said to Lenny Russell for gifting 10 crime scene to courtroom memberships. That's such a genuine, generous even. A generous gift, Mr. Russell. Much appreciated. Right, let's just catch up here. Yeah, I mean, I don't like to get into this too much because I know some people say, well, you know, you can't really judge, you know, everybody's reactions or behaviors would be different. But the feeling that I got is that she was trying to explain her way out of things. It wasn't as if, like, I mean, I'm just thinking, if I was in that situation, I would be begging. If I was innocent, I'd be begging to be understood. I wouldn't be saying, I can't answer that. I wouldn't be, you know, reluctant as she was in certain situations when answering questions. I would be like, you know, you have to understand, you know, at this stage, this was happening, that was happening. I wouldn't be just sitting there saying, well, I can't answer that, you know. And that's kind of how it was. She never displayed any fight. Never displayed any desperation, like, you know, you need to believe me, you know, this is not what happened. I was there, yeah, you know, I may have been there, but this happened. Nothing like that at all. No attempt to explain situations. It was like she was hyper-focused on explaining her way out of it, like trying to give the right answer rather than just being completely transparent and honest, you know. But again, please understand that's just my interpretation. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. It's just how I felt seeing her, you know. But I mean, obviously, you can't scream and shout in court, can you? I mean, if she'd have stood up there and screamed and shouted, then people would have probably turned around and said, look, she's an aggressive person. You know, look at her aggression. You know, that could have been used against her potentially. But it wasn't that. It wasn't that I didn't see any fight as in aggression. There was no sort of desperation from her. Like, you know, you need to understand that this was happening at the time. There's absolutely no way that I'd do something like that. You know, it was all like, no, you're a murderer. No, I'm not. It's literally like that. You are a murderer. No, I'm not. You have murdered many children. No, I haven't. It's literally like, yeah, I don't know. Let's not go too far down this rabbit hole. Anyway, okay, Alora Mac, £9.99 super sticker. Thank you so much for that. That is incredibly generous. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who has supported the stream this evening. Also, Cosmic Kitten with the donation to the Buy Me a Coffee, and also Sarah, who donated before the stream even began. As I always say on these streams, the channel is fully viewer supported or fully viewer funded. Everything that is made via these streams goes back into the channel. And all, as I say, all help, all support, even if you just click and watch and like the videos or share the videos, every bit of support is always greatly appreciated. Right, let's catch up, see if I've missed anything out. Thanks again for that, Alora. Yeah, much appreciated. We appreciate you. We appreciate you, Mr. or Mrs. Positive Vibes. I'm definitely not doing that. I might actually, at some stage, get a webcam. The thing is, because I've got like a large PC with a widescreen monitor, it hasn't got a webcam built in, so I need to buy a separate webcam if I want to have my face on the screen. But do I really want to do that? Do I want to do my hair every single live stream? Not really. I mean, I could just wear a hat, couldn't I? Some people just wear beanie hats, you know. Apparently they're all the fashion. Lavender Lush, welcome to you, and thank you for becoming a member of Crime Scene 2 Courtroom. No, John, don't do it. Don't do what? Get a webcam or strip. I don't know what it is about Terry and his fascination with my clothing. Very strange. You can see it, Jill. You can see it, Jill, on the... let me just have a look here. Bear with me a second. I'll probably be able to forward you something from a previous live stream. Bear with me a second. Let's have a look here. Just have a look at this one. Which one did I do fairly recently? That one? 2 seconds, guys. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's forward this. You know, if you're that interested, there seems to be some very curious people out there, so you can see it there in this link that I'm just posting. Yeah, there we go. What else have we got here? Okay, see, make sure I don't miss anything. Nope, that's all fine and up to date. And as I say, yeah, I'm really enjoying doing these live streams because I would say this isn't really my comfort zone, doing live streaming and talking in a live environment. It's not really my forte. You know, I'm much more comfortable, I suppose, just doing my standalone videos, releasing my videos, and you know, not speaking in a live public setting. But I also feel good once it's finished. You know, I feel like I've accomplished something because, as I say, it's not something I would usually do. It's not something I'm particularly comfortable with or fond of, shall we say. Jude, thanks so much, John and mods. Thank you to you and the mods as always. Lindsay H, I think now the trial is over for Delphi. I'd love a catch-up synopsis. Yeah, I mean, that case, I mean, I went into the trial, I won't go on about this for very long, but I went into the trial with a completely open mind, thinking, right, I want to see all of the evidence. I'm willing to believe this person's innocent. But, you know, the more and more evidence that came out, I just thought, there's just no way that this guy is innocent. There just isn't. This guy is definitely guilty. And the fact that you had lawyers and, you know, legal professionals from that country attending the trial and then creating live streams saying, well, you know, this person could be innocent, you know, just looking at it from a completely innocent angle. It's just, I don't know, I think it's sick. I really do, because it was so obvious that this person was guilty. He admitted to being there. He confessed to like being there 60 odd times on the telephone. He admits to being there that day. They found a gun with a bullet, you know, that was found at the crime scene that matched the gun that they found at his home. You know, there's so many things that pointed to him. And then people were creating these, like I say, these live streams looking at his innocence, because that's where the money is. The money on YouTube isn't doing what I'm doing. Right? It's not looking at the facts. It's not looking at, you know, the facts of the actual case. It's a conspiracy. If you buy into a conspiracy, loads of people want to hear about it. And I think that's probably why, let's take the Essex Boys case, for example. In that case, I'm not convinced that the two people that are in prison actually committed that crime. And the videos that I create on that are far more popular than the ones I create on Lucy Letby, because no one's interested in believing someone's guilty. They're interested in, something we don't know, like some sort of hidden secret or a conspiracy. That's what attracts people to watch certain things. It's not the evidence. It's not the facts of the case. People don't find that particularly interesting for some reason. But, as I've got these transcripts, I think it's important to put both sides across. And, that's what I'm trying to do on this particular set of live streams. Do the defense and then focus on one case in particular, do the defense, then cover the cross-examination, and then you've got both sides of the argument, haven't you? Right, let's carry on for a little bit longer. Just make sure I don't miss anything here. Okie dokie, let's have a little sip of me drink. 145 people still here, listening to me waffle on. Can't believe it. I don't know. I don't know what Terry's on about here. Likely £220 for a Logitech MX Brio, if that's compatible with his setup. Is that for a webcam, Mr. Stamper, or not? It's really important to educate people about what is and what isn't. Yeah, like I say, when I do these transcript videos, or when I do the transcript videos in terms of cross-examination, closing speech, or whatever, in those particular videos, I never give an opinion. They're literally a word-for-word, verbatim account of what took place during the trial. Tell us a story. I don't have any. I don't have any, Mr. Stamper. I don't have any stories. Not that I could put on YouTube anyway. Oh, dear. Let's have a look here. John, did you see that Richard Allen has landed back in Westfield Correctional Control Unit, and that's after his assessment and classification? I have. I've seen a brief mention that he's in Westfield. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? How long is he going to be? How long is he going to be alive for in there? You wouldn't have thought very long, to be perfectly honest. Right, let's catch up here. Worth switching. There is nothing worth switching the TV onto. Oh dear. It's nothing worth switching to on TV. Right. Excellent. Let's have a look here. Jill, I can't believe I have so many hours to catch up on as I've missed loads. Yeah, if you look in the video description box below, you'll see the previous 4 episodes, which cover the beginning part of Lucy Letby's defense. That covers really the background, her nursing career, her qualifications, her moving house, the handover sheets. Those first 4 episodes are contained down in the video description box below. And then we're moving forward now, as I say, with count 1, which is child A, but not just looking at the defense. We're going to combine it with, the defense one side. Then we'll cover the cross-examination, so you get, evidence, information from both sides in each live stream. That's the plan, anyway. That is the plan. John called me Mr. JB. You could be a Mr. You could be a Mrs. You could be something in between. If I said Mr. JB and I've got that wrong, then I sincerely apologize. JB. How's that? There you go. Oh dear. I can't get everything right all the time, I just do my best, Let's scroll back here quickly. Like I say, though, I've been enjoying doing these live streams and connecting with the audience, speaking with you guys live and discussing it in a live environment allows me to get through these transcripts a lot quicker than if I was recording a video. So it's allowing me to get this content out there instead of it just sitting there doing nothing. And it's allowing me to contact and interact with you at the same time. So yeah, it feels quite a lot of objectives, to be perfectly honest. It's yeah, I quite like it. It's good. Terry Stamper. All good, Jude. It's a gender neutral sounding name. Yes, well, we don't discriminate here at a crime scene to courtroom. So, you know, we are very gender aware, even though I've just called JB a male, which by all accounts could be a mistake. But I've retracted that. So there we are. Thank you, Lucy. What a kind message. Your best is more than good enough. I don't know if I'm an absolute legend, but I just try my best. No one's perfect, are they? I just try my best with what I've got. And as I've got these, as I've paid for these transcripts, it's important I put it out in as clear and as professional way that I can. And I try and do that. You know, that's all anyone can do, isn't it? All you can do is your best at the end of the day. So, right. Positive vibes. I love that name. I'm enjoying it. Excellent. JB has accepted my apology, which is fantastic. Right, okay. JB has now changed her opinion of me to a legend, which is yeah, great, superb. Right, what is Lenny Russell saying here? Well, apart from Yorkshire, that's not about the Yorkshire tea, is it? Oh dear. Right then, we've been going for 1 hour and 51. We've nearly made it to 2 hours in any case. So, this is really, Leslie. If John was this good writer, he'd be doing BBC soap operas. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I've had so many. Well, not so many people. I can't say that. I've had the odd person saying, I don't believe he's got these transcripts, right? I think what he does, he sits at home and writes out a script. Now, bearing in mind, I'm not a doctor. I've got literally no medical qualifications. And yet, apparently, I wrote out a 12,000-page manuscript, which is based on a case of a medical serial killer. And then I turned that into a fake cross-examination. Could you imagine me doing that? I can't. I mean, I'm sure you can tell. I mean, it's easier for me to read out the cross-examination because I've narrated it about 1 million bloody times, you know? But especially when I'm doing the defense part, you can really tell that it's literally, as I'm reading it, it's the first time I've read those words. You know, otherwise I'd be a lot more fluid, like I am in many ways with the cross-examination. But I can give you my word, I haven't written any of it. Sorry to disappoint you, but there we are. There we go. Let's have a look here. Michelle, what's Michelle saying? Oh, there we go. John, where are you from? Trying to work your accent out. I'm from Essex. That's why I can't pronounce my THs, innit? That's why I say 3. 1, 2, 3. I can't pronounce them, you know, because I'm from Essex. That's just the way I speak. I can't help it, you know. But yeah, I'm from Essex. I'm from Essex. That's it. Yes, born and bred in sunny southeast. Right. Am I right in thinking she sent parents cards and took pics of the cards? Well, there was one card that was talked about in court, wasn't there? Which was oh, that was quite interesting, though, wasn't it? Which was a sympathy card that she took a photograph of for the parents of child I, right? But then when the firewall inquiry spoke to the parents, Lucy, by all accounts, gave this card to a member of staff who then was supposed to give it to the parents at the funeral. But the parents said, we never received a card from Lucy. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Did she ever give that card to a colleague? Or did she write it out, take a photograph of it, and keep it somewhere? I don't know. That's just a pure speculation on my behalf. But it was quite interesting that the parents said, we never got a card. We never got a card from Lucy Letby, despite her having a photograph of it, of one she had written to the parents of child I. Lenny Russell has accused me of being a shandy drinker. Not too sure what you mean by that, Mr. Russell, but I can neither confirm nor deny. I don't like shandy. I don't even drink, to be honest. So yeah, literally the only time that you'll see me with a classic Jack Daniels and Coke, or maybe a Kraken and Coke, is when I do these streams, and that's literally it. I've got enough vices, to be honest. If I also drank, that'd just be one too many, I think. Let's have a look here. She had a card. Is that true? She had a card, took a picture, and never even sent it. Well, I don't know. I can't say that. I'm just wondering, why did the parents never receive that card? It's either one of two things. Either the colleague, either Lucy Letby's colleague never gave that card to the parents, or the card was never given to the colleague to give to the parents in the first place. So it's either one or the other, isn't it? Whatever way you look at it, the parents didn't receive that card. So why that is a mystery. Excuse me. Fig loves a good bit of the old crackaroony. I can't condone that on this channel, Mr. Fig, but hope you take it easy and all that. What have we got here? CPE 1704 TKS likes looking at weeds. Maybe a professional gardener, perhaps. Who knows? Jude. My dad came from good old Southend. Yeah, I know Southend's about 30 minutes from where I used to live. Yeah, I've been Southend quite a few times. The old amusement park and the what's it called? The fairground, whatever you call it, theme park. That's it. I can't remember that ride that used to be at what's that bloody ride called at Southend? That mental thing that used to spin you upside down. I can't remember the bloody name of it. Someone in the chat might remember. But yeah, I've been to Southend a few times. Oh, let's have a look. Michelle. I love Southend, only about 45 minutes from me. Yes. Right. Bloody hell, we've done 1 hour 57. I might as well stay here till 2 hours ticks over, mightn't I? Okay. And Lenny Russell is getting a little bit cocky now. He's calling me a lightweight. Oh, Mr. Russell. I don't know. Everything's in the south. I thought that was Lenny Russell that said that, because I know where he lives. I was about to say everything's in the south to you, but it was actually Leslie that wrote that message. Essex is in the south to me. Right. Okay. Humanimal, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for attending the live stream. That's greatly appreciated. Mish, welcome to you. I nearly said Mr. Mish then, and I've already been reprimanded once for doing that. So let's just say Mish. Then it covers both bases, doesn't it? So yeah, thank you for joining us this evening. Yes, it's Essex. The funny thing is, I've lived in different places though since then, but I've never lost my accent. I've still got the same accent as when I lived there. So it feels like other places haven't infected my my accent, which I think is good actually, because I do like my accent. So I'd rather have this accent than I don't know, let's not go there. I can't say that. I definitely can't say that. No, don't say that. But I was going to say, yeah, what would you rather sound like? Would you rather be in a position where you can't pronounce your THs, which is like me, or would you rather sound like a country bumpkin, for instance, like a proper farmer-esque voice? I would rather sound like I can't pronounce my THs, but everyone's different, aren't they? And half of my family are from farmerland, so you can't say that I'm being prejudiced there. Hopefully. That's it. Peter Pan Play Park, whatever it was called. The Peter Pan Play Park. That's it. I just can't remember the name of that bloody ride, though. The ride that was that used to go up and hang upside down and then come all the way back down and up and around. And yeah, it was quite a highlight of that place from my memory. Right, okay, let's just make sure I don't miss anything before I shoot off here. Again, thank you to all the the supporters this evening: Kaz49, Lenny Russell, Pink Pugs, Cosmic Kitten, David Zimmerman, Alora Mack, Lavender Lush, and anyone else who's disappeared since that time period. So that's also Sarah and Cosmic Kitten for your donation via Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you very much. Right, everybody. Same time tomorrow, 8 p.m. We'll be moving on to the case of Child B. And as I say, this stream will be up live in around about probably 10 or 15 minutes or so. So don't forget to leave a like on it before you leave. And as always, many thanks for joining me for this one. I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Goodbye for now. Have a good evening. Take care.